All right, let's just dive right into this. Welcome back, everyone. Today's explainer is honestly absolutely fascinating. We're going to be exploring a deeply personal collection of handwritten journals. But, we aren't just reading through someone's diary here. We're actually looking at how these specific notes map out the universal mechanics of human intelligence and the self. And a huge thing I want you to keep in the back of your mind as we go through this is that we are talking about organic human intelligence. It's an entirely different beast from computers or, rigid artificial programming. We're dealing with a living, breathing system here. Because honestly, exploring this distinction is exactly how I came to really understand how true intelligence systems operate in relation to the self. And I think this quote, pulled straight from the author's notes, really hits the nail on the head. It sets the perfect philosophical tone for us today. We are a constant duality of how we see ourselves and how others see us. It immediately establishes that decoding the human self is, well, it's incredibly complex. It's not a binary 1 or a 0. It's this constant, ever-shifting negotiation between our own internal world and the external environment around us. So here's our blueprint for today. We're going to start with decoding the human self, then move into processing the chaos. After that, we'll break down the core engine of theory, tool, and skill, see how to apply it with the TTIM learning method, and finally wrap up with navigating life's fixed points.
Okay, jumping into part 1, decoding the human self, or basically finding order in the raw, messy data of consciousness. Because when the author first actually confronts the raw data of their own mind, it looks completely chaotic, just a massive visual sprawl of thoughts. These pages detail this really intense struggle for emotional intelligence and self-awareness. And it's messy, it's full of crossouts, scribbled margin notes, the whole shebang. But it's also this brilliant reminder of how organic human thought actually works. When you're trying to build a model of human cognition, you aren't working with perfectly clean, sterile code. You are working with raw, unfiltered lived experience.
And sometimes, that lived experience is highly emotional or even a bit silly. Here, the author actually wrote out the lyrics to If I Only Had a Brain from The Wizard of Oz. It acts as a fun little palate cleanser for us, but it really highlights that very real human yearning for understanding. Think about it. A computer doesn't yearn to understand its programming, right? It just runs it. But a human being desperately wants to make sense of its own mind.
Which brings us to part 2, processing the chaos. How exactly does the human system gather and sort all this data?
Well, once you realize the mind is this inherently chaotic space, you have to figure out how it takes in information. The journals map this out by dividing data processing into 2 distinct categories, external and internal. Externally, the human system just sponges up data from everywhere. The author lists everything from psychology and chaos theory to quantum physics. But then all that external noise has to be internalized and sorted. To do that, the author uses cognitive science, neuroplasticity, and cognitive behavioral therapy tools. Why? Well, to update what they perfectly describe as their out-of-date mental software. It's this continuous, living loop of taking the chaotic outside world and using it to rewrite the inside world. And looking at the 7 principles of learning mapped out against this cognitive theory, Principle 3 really stands out to me, metacognition. The author defines this as learning through the awareness of one's own thought process. Literally thinking about thinking. This right here proves we are looking at a highly adaptable, living intelligence system capable of stepping completely out of itself, observing its own flaws, and learning to be better. Okay, moving on to Section 3, theory, tool, and skill. This is the real engine of organic learning. So this is the central processing engine of our entire mental blueprint, and it runs in 3 continuous steps. Step 1 is theory. This is where you establish a base of knowledge and figure out your purpose. That theory then fundamentally creates Step 2, a tool. This is where you learn the raw basics to build actual practical understanding. Then, over time, consistently using that tool develops into Step 3, a skill, where you connect those basics to accomplish real-world tasks. It's a completely cyclical intelligence system. And to ground this abstract concept, we can actually see the exact handwritten flowchart from the journals. You can clearly follow the circular motion linking theory, tool, and skill together. Theory establishes the knowledge, which creates the tool for understanding. And over time, applying that tool creates a skill, which then feeds right back into creating broader knowledge. This cyclical, endless loop is exactly how human intelligence dynamically adapts to brand new situations over our lifetimes.
Next up, Section 4, the TTIM learning method.
let's look at applying this blueprint to reality. So how do we actually take this engine and apply it to our everyday, chaotic lives? The author outlines a super practical framework called TTIM. It stands for Try It the Way You've Been Shown, Test Ways to Make It Easier for You, Improve on the Process, and finally, Make It Your Own. This is absolutely crucial because it highlights that human learning relies entirely on guided trial and error. Again, we don't just flawlessly execute pre-written code. We try, we test, we fail miserably sometimes, and then we adapt to make the process completely our own.
And there is a wonderfully relatable insight in these notes. The author points out that having true, fundamental understanding allows us to extrapolate old information to learn new skills so much faster. They mention how this process refines efficiency everywhere, whether you're literally line-feeding parts in a factory environment or just standing at home washing the dishes. Fundamental understanding just scales beautifully across every single human activity. Finally, we reach Section 5, Navigating Life's Fixed Points, the constants in the chaos.
Now, if the human mind is this incredibly adaptable engine navigating a wild, chaotic world, there have to be foundational anchors, right? The author identifies these anchors as elementals. An elemental is defined as a fixed point in life that remains constant, regardless of whatever else is going on around it. They are the fundamental features of reality we literally cannot change. This could range from a basic biological imperative, like needing to breathe or sleep, to the fundamental reality that other people have their own free will and autonomy that we absolutely cannot control. And this leads to a massive realization in the journals. The author notes that trying to change an elemental is the literal definition of insanity. They write, like Darwin, we must adapt. You just can't change the fact that you need to eat, or that another person is going to make their own choices regardless of what you want. The organic human system has to take its tools and skills and simply adapt to accommodate these unchangeable fixed points.
There's actually a great comparison in the notes that likens these tangible fixed points to a coin flip. A coin flip definitely has elements of unpredictability, right? But the physical reality of the coin itself, that is a fixed point. By recognizing what is unchangeable, what is truly elemental, the human mind manages to create a stable cause and effect framework. It gives this organic intelligence a structured, reliable way to navigate through the otherwise completely unpredictable chaos of daily life.
So, just to summarize everything we've uncovered in this explainer today, these journals managed to successfully map out a universal intelligence system. But it's a system that actually thrives on messy, organic self-awareness. It gathers raw, chaotic data, builds up theories, crafts practical tools, and hones complex skills through guided trial and error. And it adapts all of this around the fixed elementals of reality. It is a living system adapting chaos into structure, and as we've seen, it is entirely distinct from how artificial intelligence operates. Which leaves me with a question for all of you focused learners out there. I want you to think about your own cognitive blueprint. What are your elementals? And how do you adapt your own tools and skills to the fixed points in your life's chaos? Seriously, take some time to map it out for yourself. It's a game changer. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.